Ackerley Sports Group will come face-to-face with 7 local rugby unions in hopes to address their concerns. The Seattle-based company is at the center of controversy over a proposed equity deal with the South African Rugby Union. The aggrieved unions have claimed that the deal devalued the Springboks and was heavily weighted in ASG's favor. So why is Saru so keen on the deal? Financial Mail contributor Renée Bonochris joins us now. Renée, thanks so much for your time today. Now, as we get started right at the top, just provide some context for us here. I mean, this deal has had so many people involved. There's just been so much talk, and I think it dates back from about 2018. So just provide some context in terms of how it started and bring us to where we are at right now.
In the background, I mean, we've had Saru feeling, the South African Rugby Union feeling that they're not making enough money. And that they need to be making more in order to support South African rugby from the ground up. And then, of course, we went through the COVID period where, we didn't watch the Springboks and play for a couple of years in the stadiums. And that was, of course, pretty hard on those who make money from ticket sales for the likes. So, there are a number of ways of raising money. And one of them is to sell equity, so like a stock. And so over and above the sponsorships, and we don't know how large those sponsorships are, doesn't really get disclosed. But, MTN and Nike are huge sponsors of the Springboks. But Saru has been saying for the past couple of years it wants a private equity deal. And, you get your listed equity deals, so companies that list on the stock exchange, but this private equity often comes with debt, and it can come with quite a lot of complication. And Saru had to choose between 2 potential companies, and it had its members vote at the end of last year. They said no to what is a global company with kind of, hundreds of millions of US dollars in assets, and yes to a teeny-weeny, I think there are maybe 3 staff members, been hard to find out, but there's maybe 3 people with no known address and no known amounts of money, based somewhere in Seattle, and that's who the 14-member unions chose.
Let's get into that, Renée, the equity partner, right, that they've chosen to go with. I mean, I was reading your article and I find it quite bizarre that they even chose a partner that has little to no experience when it comes to sports, in particular rugby. Just walk us through some of your findings.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, so the company now that we're talking about is Ackerley Sports Group. And it was actually only formally, legally, born in December last year. And this is according to kind of US filings. Ahead of that, from 2002, there's been Ackerley Partners.
Okay.
And that was 3 siblings. Ted and Chris, who are twins, and their sister Kimberly. Before that was Ackerley Group, and that was their dad's company. And Ackerley Group it was a billboard company, but it had apparently, the late Barry Ackerley was very keen on basketball, and he bought the Seattle Supersonics in the 80s. And he added a couple of other smaller ventures to that later, but he sold off his company in 2001, and with it, all the sporting ventures. Since then, so the kids then started their own company in 2002, but from what I can see, their Ackerley Partners itself hasn't actually invested in any sports companies. It seems like, from their LinkedIn profiles, Ted and Chris have invested in their own personal capacities, in a couple of teams that include ice hockey and one rugby league. Then Ackerley Partners and Ackerley Sports Group, so the most recent 2, and the press releases kept changed over time, but there is a minority stake in a second-tier UK football club, Leeds United, and that seems to be the extent of the international sporting experience. There's certainly no experience with taking a rugby brand global. But the other thing you can say to yourself is, but the Springboks are global.
Yeah.
There's no one who's into rugby who hasn't heard of the Springboks.
I mean, so many moving parts, and it just sounds all so confusing, Renée. And with that being said, do you think that Saru has done enough due diligence on this partner that they're looking to get into bed with?
They say they have. I mean, what we don't know, because, you know, usually with a deal like this, there's a finder's fee, there's a commission that goes to somebody. But Saru said the third party is due 15%. That's a heck of a lot of money. 15% is very high. And we don't know who is that third party. Is it a former person from Saru? Is it an international agency? Is it an investment bank? Because usually you want an investment bank setting up some kind of a structure for a private equity deal, but it's about as clear as mud right now as to who's getting such an amount of money and whether or not Saru has a vested interest in getting this particular deal done with little-known ASG.
Renée, there's so much to talk about. We could talk about this for hours just to try and unpack and make sense of it all. But thank you so much. We've unfortunately run out of time. Thank you so much for your insights and just taking us through your findings on the Financial Mail article. That was Renée Bonochris, contributor at the Financial Mail.